Alright guys, in this video we're going to start to work with updating items and also the edit state. Basically when we click on one of those edit icons to edit an item, we want it to go into an edit state where it shows the update button, the delete button, it hides the add mail button. So that's what we're going to work on now. Now first thing I want to do is go into the UI controller, and which is right here, UI controller, and we're going to create a method here called clear edit state. Okay, so clear edit state function, and basically we want to do a bunch of things here. So first thing, we want to make sure that the inputs are clear. Now remember, we already have a clear input function. It's kind of stupid to do these two lines again, so let's just call that function. So we'll say UI controller dot clear input. So we'll do that. Now the only reason we don't see the update and delete right now is because they're commented out in the HTML, so that's obviously not, that's not going to be final. So let's go ahead and uncomment those. And now they're showing. So part of this clear edit state is to hide those initially and hide those when we call clear edit state. So what we're going to do is add to the selectors, just like we have the add button. We're going to have the update button, which has a class of update button, and the delete button. Okay, so add and delete button. Actually, we might as well do the back button as well. Okay, so let's go down here now, and we want to hide the update and delete button when we're not in the edit state. I'm sorry, and the back button. So all of those. And whoop, what did I do? Okay, and we want to make sure that the add button is shown. So what I'll do is copy this and paste that in, and we'll change this to UI selectors, and let's do update button, style none. All right, I'll copy this. Let's paste this in 3 more times. So delete button, style none, back button, style none, add button, style block. I'm sorry, inline. We want these to be inline. All right. Let's see. So clear edit state. We're hiding all the buttons. We're clearing the input. So let's go ahead and save this. Now nothing's going to happen because this function is just being created. It's not called. Now we want this called in the init. Okay, we want this initially called. So let's go down here into the init, and let's put this. Actually, we want this to be the first thing called. So let's go right here. Clear edit state, or set initial state, whatever you want to call it. You actually could have called the method that if you want, something like that. But we're going to say UI controller dot clear edit state and save. Okay, so now it gets rid of all that stuff. So now what we want to do is we want to deal with the edit button. Okay, when we click an edit button. So if we say stake and we click this, we need something to happen. All right, now since this button is not here when we start up the application, it's something that was just added after the DOM's loaded. We have to use event delegation, so we can't target the button directly. We have to get something, some kind of parent element, and then do a check inside to make sure that it's this button that we're clicking. All right, so I know I didn't really explain that in the best way, but I'll show you what I mean. So let's go up to our event listeners, our load event listeners function. We have our add item event. Now let's go ahead and do the edit icon click event. So we'll say document dot query selector. All right, now, like I said, we have to use some event delegation. We can't target the edit click or the edit item button directly. So what we're going to target is the list that it's in, the item list. So let's say UI selectors dot item list, and then we're going to do dot add event listener click, and then we're going to call item update submit. Okay, just like we had item add submit, now we have item update submit. So let's go down below the item add submit, which ends right here. We'll say update item submit. We'll say const. Is that what we did? Yeah, const item update submit equals function. I'm going to pass in our event parameter. Let's call e.preventDefault. And let's do a console.log. Okay, we'll just say test. All right, so let's save this. Now, let's go ahead and just add whatever, doesn't matter. And let's click here, and let's open up our console. And notice that we're getting test. Even though I'm not even clicking on the edit button. Okay, if I click on the edit button, it runs, but if I click anywhere in the list, it runs, and that's not what we want. So what we need to do is we need to target this edit button right here, this edit icon, whatever you want to call it. So to do that, we're going to say if we're going to use that event object, and then it has a target property, and we're going to say if target class list dot contains the class edit dash item. Okay, and if we look at the markup, that icon right here has a class of edit item, so that's what we're targeting. All right, so if it contains that, then we know that we want to keep going. So let's say console log, we'll say edit item. All right, so now if we add something here and I click just anywhere in the list, it's not going to give us our console log, but if I click the edit item or the edit icon, you'll see we get edit item. All right, so that's how that works. And the only reason we have to do this is because this isn't initially loaded when the page loads. We added this after the page loaded, so we have to use event delegation. All right, so now we can get rid of this console log. And what we want to do is add this item or whatever item we click to the current item. Okay, remember up here in our data structure, we have a current item which is initially set to null. Okay, so that's the goal. We want to fill that with the item that we click. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the list item ID. Okay, so you know how it has an ID of item 0, item 1, something like that, right? So let's go ahead and get that. So we'll say const list ID equals e.target dot, and then we need to get the parent node of the parent node. Okay, and actually, you know what? Let's console log that, see what that gives us. Okay, now when I say parent node, what I mean is we're clicking on this, right? So the parent node of this would be this A tag. Does that have the ID we need? No, it doesn't. So we need the parent of that, which is the LI, which has the ID that we need, which is this item whatever. All right, so if we console log that, you'll see we'll get the LI. Now, we don't want the whole tag. We want just the ID right there. So we can get that by just saying .id right here. So now, if I click, you'll see we get item -0. if I were to add another one, we click that one, we get item -1. Okay, so that gets the list ID, not the actual ID of the item, which is 0 and 1. It gets the list ID, which is in the markup. So now what we want to do is we need to get just the regular ID, the 0 and the 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into an array. So we're going to basically split it at the dash and set it into an array so that one array is item, one array value is item, and one is the number. Okay, so we can do that using the split method. So we're going to say const list ID array equals list ID dot split, and then we want to split it by the dash. Whoops. Okay, we want to split by the dash. And then if we log this, list ID array. So I know it stinks that I have to keep adding these, but I don't want to use the hard-coded data. And I click. Now you'll see we have an array with item and 0. So we want the number, right? We don't care about the item, the text item. We want the number. So that's in the 1 position. So what we'll do is get the actual ID by saying const ID equals, and we also want it to be a number, so we want to parse it as an int. Okay, so we're going to say parse int list ID array, and we want the 1 index. So that'll give us the actual ID of the item. All right. So now that we have the ID, we want to actually get the entire object, the entire item. So let's do that. Let's say get item. We'll put it into a variable called item2edit, because that's ultimately what we want to do when we click on one of these, is that's the item to edit. So we're going to set this to the item controller, and it's going to be a function called get item by ID, and then we're going to pass in the ID. All right, so let's go up and create that. So in our item controller, I'm going to go, let's see, I'll go right under the add item and say get item by ID. Takes in the ID. And what we're going to do is we're going to loop through the items and match the ID. Now I'm going to create a temporary variable called found using let. So we're going to say found equals, we're going to set it to null, and then we're going to loop through the items. So we'll say data.items.forEach item, and then we're going to match the IDs. So we'll say if item.id is equal to the ID that's passed in here, then we want to set found equal to the item, and then we want to go outside of the for each and we want to return found. Okay, so let's try it out. We'll go down here, right here, and let's just console log. Let's console log item to edit. Okay, so now when we have an item, let's put something in here, and we click on it, we get the entire object, the ID, the name, the calories. All right, so that's what we want. Okay, and then what we want to do is set that current item. So to do that, we're going to say item controller, and we're going to have a function or a method called set current item, and we're going to pass in the item to edit. Okay, and then that set current item is going to be very simple. So let's go up here and say set current item, and that takes in item, and all we have to do is say data dot current item equals item. So now let's go ahead and save, and let's put in just whatever, it doesn't matter. Whoops. Okay, so now if I click this one, actually let's put a real word. We'll say test. All right, so if I click on test on the edit, nothing happens, but let's go down here. Let's clear this out, and let's say item control dot log data. Let's take a look at that and look at current item. Current item is now filled with test. That's the one we clicked. So we know that when we click it, the current item is being filled. All right, now the last thing we want to do when we click this is we want to show the edit state, and we want to put those fields up here. So let's go back down to the app controller, right after where we set the item, current item. We'll say add item to form. So UI controller, that's where this is going to go. Add item to form. Okay, we don't even have to pass anything in because it's in that current item, so we can access that from anywhere. So let's see, we're gonna go up to the UI controller. Let's go right under the clear input, and we'll say add item to form. And we're going to say document dot, actually let's just copy, we can actually copy these because we need those inputs, and we're going to set the value not to nothing but to item controller dot get current item, which I didn't create yet, I probably should have. But it's basically just going to return the current item. And it's going to be current item, which is an object, but we want the name in this case. And then down here we want the calories. So we'll go ahead and paste that in, and we want calories. All right, so right now it doesn't know what get current item is in the item controller, so let's create that. We'll put it right under the set current item. And all we need to do is return data dot current item. All right, so let's try it out. Put some stuff in here. And let's click on this one here, and there it goes. So it gets added to the form. Now we want the edit state to show, which means we want the update button, and we want all of that stuff. So we'll go back to our add item to form in the UI controller, which is right here, and we're going to call UI controller dot show edit state, okay, which we still have to create. But basically it's just the opposite of clear edit state. So what I'm going to do is copy clear edit state, paste that in, and get rid of this. And then for the update button, we want that to show, so that'll be inline, delete inline, back button, inline, add button, none. Oops. Okay, so let's save. Whoop, I forgot to change this to show edit state. All right, so now if we add something in here, I click the edit button, it gets added to the form, and we have our update, delete, and back button. All right, so that was kind of a long lecture, and a little complicated, but hopefully you understand what's going on here. We're setting the current item when we click this, and then we're showing the edit state, and we're putting the current item into the form. So in the next video, we're going to start to work on actually being able to update these items and calories, okay? And then we'll move on to being able to delete them as well. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.